Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Happy Mind, Happy Life podcast, where we take a few minutes each week to pause, breathe, reflect, and connect about how we can create more peace, more joy, and more calm in our everyday life. I'm your host, Michelle Werdeman, and I am so grateful you decided to hit play today. What is happening, my friends? Welcome back to the Happy Mind, Happy Life podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I wanted to share something, and I'm going to try to get through this without crying, because when I was writing this episode, lots of tears, but good tears. So a little over a month ago, I had recorded an episode about change and nostalgia and really appreciating the season of life that you're in. And the responses to that episode were so incredible. So many people reached out and shared their stories and just really let me know how much it resonated, which I love to hear. I absolutely love to hear that. So thank you for all of those people who did that. And if I'm being honest, like that conversation, that episode has stayed with me, especially lately, because we're in a time of year that's filled with graduations and proms, college acceptances, and just end of the year celebrations and major like life milestones. And yeah, my social media feeds have been filled with proud parents and posting photos of their kids in their cap and gowns, or they're dressed up for prom, or celebrating just exciting new chapters. And I love seeing them, but I found myself getting like really unexpectedly emotional. And a middle-aged woman too, I blame everything on hormones. So that probably played a role. But yeah, suddenly I would find myself looking at these photos and I'd start to tear up. And I was like, okay, something deeper. This isn't just my hormones talking, because it was almost like every time I was looking at them. So my kids are 13 and 16, and we're not at graduation season yet in our family. We're not opening college acceptance letters, but for the first time, those milestones don't seem so far away anymore. And every photo, every celebration, and just every proud parent post, I think really just stirred something inside of me. And it wasn't sadness exactly. I think it was just something deeper. It got me thinking about how sometimes we become emotional, not because something is ending, but because we realize that one day it will. And I think many of us know this feeling. Maybe you're raising teenagers, or maybe your children are already grown. Maybe you're watching your parents get older, or navigating a changing friendship, a new chapter in your career, retirement, or just simply realizing that life looks different than it did years ago. And at some point we become aware that life is moving. And I think sometimes that awareness can feel both beautiful and also a little bit of heartbreak at some time. Like the other night, my daughter was heading to dance, and for years, dance meant she would grab her bag, hop into the car, and we'd head off. We'd talk about school, friends, what was happening, and just listen to music, whatever it was. But this time was different. She grabbed her bag and walked out the door and climbed into her friend's car. Her friend is old enough to now drive her some days. And as I watched them pull away, I just had one of those moments, like, the ones that you're like, wait, what just happened? Like, time just stood still for a second. And I thought to myself, I'm like, when did this happen? And not in a sad way. I was thankful I didn't have to drive to dance. But in a way that made me want to go backwards. Just in a way that reminded me how quickly life moves. And then just a couple days after that, it was after school. It was a beautiful day. My son hopped on his bike and he headed into town with his friends. And again, like nothing unusual. In fact, it's exactly what he should be doing. I don't like to use the word should, or supposed to be doing. He's a kid. It's a bike. It's nice out. But he's building his independence. He's creating his own adventures. He's growing into himself. But as I watched him ride away, I felt that same tug on my heart. Like, this chapter is changing. It's not ending, it's changing. And isn't that exactly what we've been raising our kids to do? To become independent, to spread their wings, and to really just build beautiful lives of their own. Yet somehow, I feel like at certain times, it just really, really tugs at my heart. And I think a lot of people can resonate with this because I think here's the thing. I remember years ago, I saw this probably on Facebook or something. We celebrate the firsts, the first steps, the first day of school, the first sleepover, first dance recital, driver's license, which we're almost there. We are in permit status right now. We take the pictures and we mark all these beautiful milestones and we celebrate growth. But life is also quietly full of lasts. And most of the time, we don't know they're happening when they happen. We don't know the last time, we read a bedtime story, or the last time one of the kids asked to carry them, or the last time they wanted to hold our hand, which thankfully, once in a while, both of them will still hold my hand. But just, the last, I don't know, anything you can think of, because I've always said, like, it's not that I want my kids to stay little. I don't. I want them to grow. I want them to become people who they were meant to be. I want them to chase their dreams, find their path, and create lives that they love. But I can also recognize how precious this chapter is while I'm living in it. Because one day, this season will become a memory. And that realization has made me think about something else. Like, how often are we rushing through the very moments we will miss one day? I was looking through family photos from years ago, and I almost felt like, I couldn't remember. Like, I knew all these pictures were taken, and I remember the parties and all the stuff, but I couldn't remember some of the feelings that I felt. I don't know if I'm explaining that, but it was just kind of almost like I was looking back, but questioning whether or not how present was I. And I think part of that is, you're just, especially when you have little kids or you're just in the middle of a crazy transition, you're kind of on autopilot, and it's just kind of go, go, go. And a lot of times too, it's like we focus on what's next for something, like the next milestone, the next accomplishment, the next chapter, the next season. Meanwhile, like, life is happening right now, in the messy kitchens, in the sports practices, the car rides, the family dinners. And I think about, like, the pile of shoes that every day I ask my family, please just keep your shoes in the mudroom. And every day, there they are in the kitchen with the backpacks. And I stopped asking because I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to miss this someday. And if I really want nothing on my kitchen floor, then I will move it, And I think the ordinary moments like that don't really seem extraordinary at all until one day they are. And I'm not saying that shoes on the kitchen floor are extraordinary by any means, but I think you know what I mean, because this was an invitation for me to look at really my life a little bit more closely and just examining how present I am in all of these situations. And I think this is an invitation in all of us, not to hold on tighter, not to resist change, but to really look and examine in the moments how present we are. And without judgment or shame or guilt, like, I think back to certain moments where I would be at the dinner table. I wouldn't have seen my children for the majority of the day. And I had my laptop open because I used to ticket IPOs and for stock or whatnot. And I think back to that, and that's what I had to do at the moment, and I can appreciate that, but was I really present for dinner? Or if I'm at one of my kids' sporting events and all I'm thinking about is the emails that I have to get back to, or, the phone calls I have to make. Is that really being present in that moment? And no. And again, I mean, it happens to all of us. It's not like we're always going to be like 100%. But I think this is such a great invitation to start to notice the little things and be there and participate. And, you know, people will ask me, like, what are some things that they can do? Because a lot of times our minds are racing ahead. And honestly, like, I don't have this mastered, but there are a few things that I have been reminding myself of lately. And again, it's noticing the ordinary moments. Like, we tend to think about the moments we'll remember, like, are the big ones, like the graduations, the vacations, the birthdays, and all of that is wonderful. But if I think back to when my kids were younger, like, the things that I miss the most are mornings that I didn't want to be up when it was 5 a.m. and it was a Saturday or a Sunday, but my kids were up then, and we'd bring them into bed and they would lay there and we'd put Mickey Mouse on, or they'd have like a yogurt. We used to call them like yogurt squeezies. And my husband and I would lay there in just hopes to get like a little bit more time before we had to get up. And in that moment, it was sweet, but I didn't realize just how sweet it was because I was tired. And again, that's normal. Like, we all do that. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. But it's those little moments that I feel like you don't know at the time that you're really gonna miss. Like, I remember bath time sometimes just being like, oh, another thing you had to do, or like the nighttime routine. But in hindsight, I would give anything to go back and be able to have a nighttime routine when they wanted to get tucked in, when they wanted their stories read, their baths. And to my point where we don't really always know when the last is the last. Like, I don't know when the last time, it wasn't a big milestone the last time I bathed one of my kids. And yeah, so it just kind of puts things in perspective. So some of the things that I've been doing, and again, I think everybody talks about this, but honestly, it's really like, put the phone down for a little while. And don't get me wrong, like, even on vacation where you want to take pictures, or you're at parties and celebrations and you want to take pictures, that's great and all, but like, capture those memories. It's awesome that we have them, but sometimes we're so busy documenting a moment that we forget to actually experience it. Like, not every beautiful moment needs to be recorded. Some moments, they're meant to be lived. And another thing is, I do try to practice gratitude in real time. And because instead of waiting until something's gone to appreciate it, like, what if you could start appreciating it now? Like, even the things like all the shoes in the kitchen, but the little things that frustrate us, like the busy schedules, the endless driving, the noise, the chaos, the mess, because those are often the things that we're going to miss someday. And honestly, I talk about it a lot in these podcasts, but I take time to just stop and look around and pause. And my kids, it's funny, lately, they'll be like, what are you doing? Like, why are you creepy, like, staring at me? But that's one thing I've been doing. Like, I've been trying to really take it all in as much as I can and just feeling it. Like, if I'm watching my son play baseball, and I just happen to be, he's either on second base playing or he's in the dugout, and just stopping and just looking around, looking at the people I'm with, just the whole scene. And really, sometimes I'll just put like my hand on my heart and smile and just take that in. And then with my daughter, when I do still pick her up for dance sometimes, if you get there early, you can see through the windows. And I just sit there and I just watch. And I know that I'm not going to be able to do this forever. And I will miss this someday. So it's just so beautiful to stop and look at what is happening, around you. And so I offer you that. Are there moments, whether it's in the car with the kids or you're making dinner and you're running around, can you just stop and pause? And if you can, place a hand on your heart and just really take it all in. Take in the noise, take in the chaos, take in the mess. Because you just never know, like, when it's going to be the last, right? And I don't say this to be, doomsday by any means. It's a reminder. When I was looking at all of these beautiful pictures and posts that people had with these beautiful milestones of just really how fast time, goes by. And I know the goal isn't to stop time. Obviously we can't, but I think there's a goal for, like, at least me to just participate in life and be awake for it and notice it while it's happening. To recognize that these ordinary moments are actually the moments that make up my life and where I'm at. And I had a conversation with a woman who was taking care of her elderly parents. And she was telling me about, it was so stressful and she felt like it just consumed her for a long time. And she began to just experience very stressful situations with them. And they have since passed. But she was saying, I would give anything to just be back in that moment, taking care of my parents. And she showed such appreciation for being able to be there for them. And I think it's just so important that all of the stress, I shouldn't say all of the stressful situations, but a lot of these situations, like, these are the moments that shape our lives, and that's what we're experiencing it. And there will come a time when we miss, like, the crazy, the chaos, and all of that. So I'd love to leave you with a question today. And it's, where in your life do you think that you could be more present? Something that is going to be just a memory someday. And where can you allow yourself to really fully experience it while you're in it? And maybe these emotions that show up, they're not here to make us sad per se. Maybe they're here to wake us up, like to remind us to pay attention, to linger and stare a little longer, like I do to my kids, and they think I'm creepy, but that's okay. To take the pictures, but also live in the experience. Maybe it's to have a conversation that you've been putting off, or a phone call, and really just soak in the ordinary moments that one day they're not going to feel ordinary. They're going to feel extraordinary, because before we know it, this season will also become a memory. And perhaps I think the greatest gift we can give ourselves is being fully present while we're still living it. And I am so grateful you're still here. You've listened, and thank you for spending this time with me today. And wherever, in whatever season you're navigating, I hope you find a moment this week to just pause, look around, and appreciate the beauty that exists right here, right now. And until next time, take care of yourself, and remember that happiness, it's not about having a perfect life. It's about finding joy in the one that you're already living. Cheers, my friends. Thank you so much for being here and spending time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, or you think someone in your life could really use this message, I'd love for you to share it with them. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any upcoming episodes and conversations. You can also stay connected with me on Instagram at Michelle Werdeman, or visit michellewerdeman.com for upcoming events, offerings, the Happy Mind, Happy Life app, and so much more. And as always, cheers to creating a happier mind and a happier life.